Hey guys, welcome to another unboxing video. I was actually going to make one a few days ago because I've been really anxious to dig into these boxes, but unfortunately I got hit by the stomach flu. Ended up losing about 10 pounds in 10 hours. Well, I'm finally feeling a bit better, so let's get to it. I figure I'll start with the smallest package first, and that would be this envelope. Just cut it open. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought it was. Something I stumbled across on eBay. This is RCA Service Parts Directory. Now, I've already got some original service info for the late 40s RCA TVs, but haven't seen this piece before. Service Parts Directory for RCA Victor TV receivers, 1946 through 1950 first half. Okay, so we get schematics and parts lists. Oh. Huh. I thought this was like 8.5 by 11 format, but no, it actually folds out to full, I think they got ledger size. There's examples of some of those TVs. It actually folds out this big, so you get the full schematic and parts list, I'm guessing for every set they made during all those years. So it's not just the parts directory, it's actually service info, schematic for every single TV receiver they made. So it just starts, yeah, 621, 630, 648, 721, and so on. So, cool. I certainly have some of these sets. Next up is another envelope that arrived just yesterday that I'm really anxious to take a look at. It's a radio I have. I don't think I've ever shown. It's a Motorola 71A. I don't think I've ever seen another one for sale. And there's very little info online about them. All I've had so far, been able to find so far, is a crappy version of the schematic, I think from the Riders. Perpetual troubleshooter. And I've had a search set up on eBay for years for Motorola 71-A, and finally I got a hit, which is the original Motorola service info for the 71A. So now I'm finally more encouraged to start working on it. It's a little tabletop shelf radio, AM and one shortwave band, I think, with a somewhat unusual tube configuration. It's series strung with push-pull 25B6 output. So now I finally have a very clear schematic, parts list, servicing info, alignment info. Excellent. Everything I should need to get it working again. Now moving on to the smallest of the boxes. A lot of grit in this one. Oh, that's weird. Oh, I know what that is. Okay, that actually is a really good clue as to what this is. What do you suppose all those white and black flakes are? That's right, salt and pepper. A little set of salt and pepper shaker ceramic in the form of a TV. Unfortunately, they're slightly chipped, but I also only paid 50 cents for them. It's kind of a cute thing, I think. So I imagine one with 2 holes of pepper and 3 holes of salt, depending on which you prefer, more salt or more pepper. I guess the seller didn't empty them out too good before shipping them out. Next up, we've got one that's a little bit of a mystery. I think this is from one of my YouTube fans. I was contacted recently by a viewer who asked if he could have my address because he wanted to donate some tubes to my restoration attempts. I think that's what these are. Which I appreciated, but before I gave him my address, I asked him what tubes exactly he had, because I've had other offers from people, and although I always appreciate it, I only kind of work in a somewhat narrow range of things from like let's say late 1920s to 1960. So newer tubes like Pactrons and stuff I just don't have much use for, but when he gave me a list of numbers, it certainly fell within my range. So, for example, 42. I've got a number of Philco radios that use 42s. And 26, 24As. Those are some of my older radio projects use those. 24A, another 42. 5V4, just about every single TV I work on uses one of those. 27, I got a number of radios that use those. And as for the smaller tubes, 6CG7s, yep. And 6X8s, 6AC7s, 6AX4s are all commonly used in TV. 6AL5, dual diode, 6U8, used in mixers, 6AH6, it's an RF amp I think, or IF amp tube. 6AF4, used for UHF oscillators and mixers. So, very, very much appreciated. For sure, I will be using these in upcoming projects. Moving on now to one of the larger boxes. This should be something I can very much use in one of my Admiral TVs. Ah, yes. It is the hard to find metal back for an Admiral Bakelite TV. Should fit on a 24A12, that's what I hope to use it on. It's also the 20X122, but that, the original really should have an opening right here for a lever that used to center the picture, but the later models did not have it. Well, I gotta say, this does look to be a tad wide, so this might actually be for a 12-inch version, so I'm gonna dig up one of my Bakelite sets and flip it around and see if this lines up. Here's one of those Admiral Bakelite TVs I was just referring to. I did a lengthy restoration series on one of these, and I actually ended up selling it, but I happen to have another one waiting in the wings. This one's in a really, really nice condition, and it actually still has the back, but I just happen to have another couple of these on the back porch, and one of them is missing the back. So I know this back fits, and here's the one I just got off of eBay, so let's see. Hey, it's an exact match. Alright, so excellent. This can go on to the one I've got on the back porch. Alright, and while we're in here, I also pulled out the Motorola 71A radio that I just got the service info for. So the radio I was referring to that I want to get around to restoring probably sooner than later now that I've got all the service info. I think this will be a rather interesting project, a bit different from other radios I've worked on. And I was just watching a video by Dennis Carter on vacuum tube theory, and he mentioned something that rang a bell. He mentioned about doing the biasing on tubes, and that there was an era when they used bias cells, and this uses a bias cell. It's the only radio I've ever had that uses one. It's actually like a little battery inside to provide a negative grid bias on some of the tubes. So that will be interesting to work on. Got a faux finish on part of it. It's got a few flakes here and there, but not too bad. There's only one or two other examples of this I've seen, and one of them was completely stripped down. All the faux wood grain was gone. So even though this one's a little bit chipped up, I'm glad it's mostly there. Just two more boxes to go. I'm going to save this one for last because I think it's the best. And we'll do this guy next. And what's in it is exactly what it says it is, because it's still in the original box. It is an Electron Tube, in particular a K20 or K2249P19 Dumont, but long after it was the old Dumont that made TVs and had their own TV network. It looks like it was part of the Thomson Corporation at the time this puppy was made. Total impulse purchase. Just noticed somebody selling these. Occasionally I just search for cathode ray tube and look at all the stuff that's for sale, and if I see some interesting looking industrial or surplus type tubes, I might pick one up, and that's what this is. Better off opening the other end. Let's see. I don't know. When this box was ever open? It's got staples in it. I don't think there's still any originals there. Or maybe it was open and then restapled. Well, I will get some wire cutters and cut those out. Alright. Get them out. Boy, talk about your lack of padding. Man, I hope this thing survived. Because there was just no bracing between. I mean, there's cardboard in here, but there's a pretty sizable gap between this and the edge of the box. So this thing could have just been sliding up and down quite a bit. But it looks to be intact, so I'll slide it out and we can take a closer look at it. This thing's even more of a beast than I realized from the picture online. This thing is awesome. 12-inch CRT of some sort. Probably for radar, some sort, military application. Industrial application. I'll have to look up what P19 is. But aside from that, look at the construction of this thing. So pretty low deflection angle. It's electrostatic too. So theoretically, it goes up to something like a little VT71 TV and get an image on it. Of course, this runs on considerably higher voltage, so you get a high voltage connector here. And the deflection plates actually connect around the neck. Maybe this will help give you some idea of the scale of this thing. Here's a 3RP1A scope CRT. You can see it's just minuscule in comparison. Here's a closer look at that neck. So right there we can see two of the deflection plates. And the other two will be going in the other axes at right angles. That's what these nubs will connect to. they would have them go out of the side of the neck to reduce the capacitance. So they could run at pretty high frequencies. So even though there's a huge base with a lot of pins, I imagine most of these are unused. And why would this neck be so large in diameter? Well, I'm not sure. I guess to accommodate the deflection assembly. And a very low deflection angle too. You look how long that thing is. Getters look pretty good. A common issue with these is you get leaks on these side connectors. It's unused, but I imagine it's been kicked around a bit. So I'll do a little looking online and see if I can find data for this. So like I said, there's one set of deflection plates. Trying to see if I can find the others. Well, the others I think are just on the extreme. I think there's one here and the other one's over there, so they're just at the very edge, just a little piece of square metal here and over here. Amazingly, a web search actually turned it up at Frank's Electron Tube data. I've had lots of good luck with this site. Look at there's a whole family of CRTs here, categorized as CROs or cathode ray oscilloscope. So a K229 P19 is equivalent to a 12 AV P19. Pull up a 12 AV P2 datasheet, take a closer look at it. 12.5-inch diameter single beam electrostatic focus and deflection cathode ray tube and 2 quartz rates of glass, gray glass faceplates. The use of post acceleration allows us to obtain the maximum deflection sensitivity, high overall accelerator voltage. A special deflection structure is incorporated so that minimum spot defocusing is obtained with deflection. The deflector connections are made through the neck to facilitate high frequency operation, as I suspected, and they make a point of indicating that. So very low capacitance, down to the picofarad range for those deflection plates. You see P19 orange long, yes, so that would be a radar type thing. So curious that you would have high frequency operation tube with a long persistence phosphor. They seem kind of counterintuitive, but hey, whatever. Orange is cool. So with a bit of tinkering, I should be able to hook this up to one of my electrostatic deflection TVs. Tinkering would be, if I want it to work properly, check out the voltage. Well, those are maximum. Looks like a typical operating. So, typical post accelerator, that would be the highest potential. The external connector would be 9700 volts. And the accelerator would, I believe, be a connection made through the base. It would be like A1 and A2. And that'd be 6100. So typically in an electrostatic set with a 7JP4, you'd be looking at around 5,000 or 6,000 volts. Now I still might be able to produce an image on this, it just wouldn't be that bright or distinct, but you can usually operate these at a lot lower voltage. Deflection factor though, about 100 volts per inch DC, that's pretty typical for electrostatic CRTs, so I think all I'd really need to be able to do is just boost that, and I've already talked about that in other videos where I'm going to plan on making up an external variable high voltage power supply, an experiment with hooking up CRTs to one of my sets. Yeah, so now we can see the pin on here, and like I thought, most of those pins are not used for anything. Curiously, when I'll pull up 7JP4, I think it has basically the same pinout on it. So here's a 7JP4, so Very common for heater to be on either side of the keyway, and then cathode, then grid, then first anode at 5, second anode at 9. And yep, focusing or first anode at 5 and accelerator anode at 9. So yeah, so this, just like I have some 3 JP series CRTs, they all use 14-pin base, all same basic pinout. This one will all need to run the external wires for the deflection anodes, but these were all basically compatible with the socket on an electrostatic TV from the late 1940s. So for sure, one of these days I will do a tour de force video where I round up all my compatible CRTs and have some fun experimenting and try to get them all to operate. So, what could be in this last box? Well, common question I get is recommendations for an oscilloscope. And some of you have asked me about the Hewlett-Packard you see me using all the time, and I actually don't recommend that. I got a good deal on it, but if you want a modern digital scope, get a brand new one. Don't mess around with that model in particular. That's over 20 years old now, and it wasn't that great to begin with. Anyways, if you want to mess around with vintage scopes, I know a number of other TV guys picked up one of these because they're very plentiful, very inexpensive, and they were designed specifically to work on TVs by RCA. Lightweight, small, easy to use, and I'll be kind and say the specifications are modest. They're actually kind of laughable by modern standards, but hey, look how small this thing is. And this one in particular I wanted to get because it looked to be in excellent condition. It still has the original box, or what's left of it, and the manual and the probe. So yes, it is an RCA WO33A. And this is why I wanted the probe, because it's not exactly your standard oscilloscope probe. And boy, I don't know how much use this thing may have seen, but it can't have been much because this is in really, really good condition. Original box, not so much, but neat piece of history to have anyways. See, it's seen better days, but how often do you see the original box for a vintage piece of test equipment? And it sure didn't cost very much. I mean, like I said, these scopes are pretty plentiful. You should be able to get one for like 20, 30, 40 bucks. I might have paid a little more than that for this one just because it was in nice shape, but it wasn't much more. Does it work? I don't know. I actually kind of assume it doesn't work perfectly because I want to restore it and then play around with it. Wow, this is even smaller than I realized when I got out of the packaging. Man, that thing's small. And I think, if memory serves, I actually have a new old stock CRT. This is a 3AQP1, I think. But considering how clean this is, I doubt this one hasn't seen much use. I mean, man, look how clean that thing is. It's like almost brand new. Even so, I'm not just going to plug it in. I'll do a quick check out of it. But right away, if you've used scopes before, you might notice that that doesn't quite look like your typical scope screen. It's because, like I said, these were designed specifically for working on TVs and to some extent radios. So it does not have your typical sweep, like horizontal time base or vertical attenuator and so on. This gradient was supposed to specifically help you with some TV functions. And actually this can kind of double as a VTVM because this vertical scale, when you calibrate it, is actually reads directly in volts. So I was able to get it. You can get a free copy of the manual from the Boat Anchor archive, so I was already reading that. So I've never actually used one of these before, but I've read up on it, so I know a little bit about it. I'm sure you guys would like to see me either pop this open, fire it up, or both right now, but I really think this guy deserves a video all its own, so I'm going to end things here, as usual, with I hope you enjoyed this video.